developed for the Advanced Master in GIScience at the University of Padova. The project work has the title Critical Remote Sensing to track unleakable carbon using satellite imagery to track post-ban gas flaring activities in the Ecuadorian Amazon. Okay. In 2018, the IPCC published its special report on global warming, showing the pathways that are needed to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 Celsius degree above the pre-industrial levels by 2050. Already in 2015, McLeod and Atkins introduced the concept of unburnable carbon and quantified these known fossil fuel reserves that cannot be exploited without exceeding planetary limits. However, despite this warning, we are now at the end of 2025, and the threshold of 1.5 Celsius degree has already been surpassed, highlighting how there is a critical gap between climate targets and real-world practices. Within the scientific debate on the supply side mitigation, unleakable carbon has received far less attention. In 2017, Hendrick and colleagues define unleakable carbon as the uncombusted carbon-based gases that are also associated with extraction, distribution, and consumption of fossil fuel reserves, including also emissions that are fugitive, leaked, vented, or unintended emissions. Recent estimates suggest that when we include these unintended emissions, the amount of carbon that should remain underground increases dramatically. Finally, any discussion on fossil fuel extraction cannot be separated from a discussion on climate and environmental justice and on social justice. The benefits and the risks of fossil fuel use are distributed in a deeply unequal way, both geographically and socially. While the economic benefits are often concentrated somewhere else, the environmental burdens and the health burdens tend to fall on specific territories and communities, exposed both to the direct local impacts of extraction activities and to the impacts of climate change, despite having contributed very little to global greenhouse gas emissions. So within this framework, gas flaring plays an important role in the discussion of unleakable carbon. Gas flaring, that is also known as mecheros petroleros in Spanish, is the combustion of natural gases associated to the oil extraction. Globally, around 151 billion cubic meters of gas are burned yearly, in 2024 specifically, responsible for approximately 389 million tons of CO2 equivalent per year. But gas flaring has also impacts at a local scale, emitting toxic substances, generating acid rains, having impacts on human health, and generating also heat islands. Moreover, gas flaring represents also a waste for gases that could be used as energy resources. This research focuses on the Ecuadorian Amazon region that is located in the eastern part of Ecuador. The region is characterized by a high level of territorial complexity, where different and often conflicting interests coexist. This includes, for example, hydrocarbon extraction, biodiversity conservation, and the presence of indigenous population that live in these territories. As shown in the map, the red lines that are the oil blocks spatially overlap with the protected areas, such as the Yasuni Biosphere Reserves and the intangible zone for indigenous people in voluntary isolation. So, local organizations in the Ecuadorian Amazon region are now asking for climate actions and greenhouse gas reduction. The Apaguen los Mecheros campaign brought together different local organizations to demand an end to gas flaring. Within this campaign, a process of citizen science was developed, involving collaboration between academic researchers from the University of Padova and local organizations. This led to the participatory mapping of gas flaring sites across the region in 2029, 29, and 19, sorry. These data were later used in a legal action before the court of Nueva Loja, which in January 2021 led to the historic ruling that ordered the elimination of gas flaring located near populated center within 18 months, that is in March 2023, and the banning of routine gas flaring by December 2030. The research group of the University of Padova already worked in the Amazon region in the Ecuadorian Amazon region. In 2019, already developed a satellite mapping of gas flaring sites, followed by a participatory process in the field, and the latest work related to the gas flaring health risks in the region. So these works aims are basically to update the spatial distribution of gas flaring sites and to quantify the birth volume over the 12-year period that is from 2012 to 2023. To identify new gas flaring sites from 2019 and 2025, and finally to assess the degree of alignment between satellite observation and national commitments. For this study, the night fire dataset published by the Earth Observation Group was analyzed. In particular, the annual database was used from 2012 to 2023 to spatially locate gas flaring sites and to quantify the volume, the burnt volume, and daily observation from 2019 to May 2025 were used to identify new gas flaring sites after a workflow that was already developed by Facchinelli and colleagues. Daily observation were first pre-processed in RStudio, cutting the area of interest, and then a model builder was built in QGIS in order to digitalize all the workflow applied to daily observation, in order also to be able to apply this kind of workflow to other geographical location and in other time periods. Results show that 133 gas flaring sites can be identified from satellite images. 32 of these gas flaring sites burned around 67% of the total volume during the entire period. From the volume analysis, we could calculate the cumulative volume of gas burned that was more than 30 billion cubic meter from 2012 to 2023. As you can see from the graph, from 2018 to 2023, the volume burned each year was constantly increasing in time. We also focused on gas burned in gas flaring sites that are located close to populated centers. In particular, for example, the central station of Sushufindi, as you can see, the volume increased from 2021 to 2023, same as in the northern station of El Sacha, where the volume almost was almost 3 times higher. So this was not in line with what the ruling of 2021 was telling about the elimination of the gas flaring sites located close to populated centers before March 2023. With the data observation analysis, we could identify 31 new gas flaring sites that were not included in the participatory mapping and in the annual database. Each of these 31 sites were then visually analyzed in Google Earth Pro. In 8 cases, so in 8 gas flaring sites, we could find an activity. So the flame could be identified in the satellite images. In 15 of these sites, it was possible to identify only the infrastructure, and in 8 of them, was not possible to identify any infrastructure because of the lack of satellite images. Finally, Thanks to satellite images, we could identify thermal activities in 27 sites that were told to be closed by oil companies, and thermal activities was recorded after March 2023. That was the limit sentenced by the ruling. So to conclude, we can say that open source GIS technologies and open access satellite data are important tools to track unleakable carbon to support climate justice. But however, limited number of sites that could be detected by satellite and poor availability of images for verification needs for field mapping by local communities. Few months ago, the Environmental Observation Group also published the data of the volume burned in 2024, showing that also this year there was an increase respect to the previous ones, respect to the 2023. So showing, highlighting the partially inconsistent application of the ruling of 2021. To conclude, data can be a useful tool in the hands of local communities in their fight for environmental and climate justice. For this reason, also the research group of the University of Padova is currently working on the publication of this work to support local communities with scientific data. What now? I also want you to give you a look on what's happening right now in Ecuador. In July 2025, the president of Ecuador abolished the Ministry of the Environment and the Ecological Transition, assigning its function to the Ministry of Energy and Mines. Moreover, the current government is also betting economically on more oil, seeking to open a southeastern route with Peru. Moreover, a few months ago, the Ecuadorian people took the streets, initially to protest against the elimination of the diesel subsides, then declaring a national strikes to defend their rights to education and health, and to defend the rights of nature and indigenous people, and the rights of all people living under oppression. So I'll thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to answer to any question. Thanks.